Earlier this week, the New South Wales Ombudsman handed down a report criticising the Office of Aboriginal Affairs for failing to advise the community of Toomala for entitlements to exemptions from land rates. The report also claims the community has been neglected and failed to receive adequate funding for basic services. The report follows a Human Rights Commission inquiry in 1988 by Marcus Einfield. It brought the living conditions in the community under the spotlight of the national media.
There has been major improvements out there, which I'm sure anyone would definitely indicate has happened.
Mike O'Reilly says the problem facing Toomala is not a question of rating or whether residents should be exempt from paying rates, but whether or not the new services are adequately maintained.
There's $110,000 that the Toomala people could be having coming into their coffers to pay for things like rates, maintenance programs, and also improvement programs, which are definitely needed. And I think that's the whole shame of the issue, and this is where the various government departments have to work very closely with Toomala in making sure that these claims for the money that's really entitled to them are definitely forthcoming.
This Bridge to Bridge is a wide open affair with Tom Hughes and Top Gun, Stan Najar's Network and a host of others, including God's Gift, expected to be up front all the way. And this year's race is expected to create many new records, with one being already set by the Robertson family.
It's the first time four brothers have ever crewed the one boat, with John the driver, me the observer and Paul and Stephen the skiers. And, we're up against some tough competition out there, but we'll certainly be in there, doing our very best.
Skiing behind Firebird is current world champion Paul Robertson, who will partner his 16-year-old brother Steve, and they are quietly confident.
We know that what we can do in the Sydney Bridge, so since then we've just gone full steam ahead with the preparation of the boat, done a few different things. So now, all we can do is go out, give it our best shot and hope to come home as a winner.
And for one so young, Steve can't wait.
I'm a bit young and most of the guys I race against, they're still in their age division, that's about all, but it's going to be a tough race and I think I'm good enough to do well, so I may as well go in superclass now,
With all the build-up to the Glamour Water event, there is plenty of pressure.
We're getting a bit of pressure at the moment, just within the family circles that, if we can do it, it'll be history. And the Bridge to Bridge is just an unpredictable race. No one's won until they cross the line, and all we can say is we're going to be doing our best.
But next week, all the family unison will end. The Robertsons are aiming at qualifying both Firebird and Mirror Image, along with skiers Paul and Steve, for the 1993 World Titles in Europe.
Well, that's our aim. It's a big aim to ask, but, we're going to be giving it our best shot anyway, So we'll see what happens.
So come next Friday, brotherly love goes out the door.
You're not really there.
No, I shouldn't really think so. We had our first Grand Prix 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we came in 1-2. You just can't afford to be friends out there, otherwise you're not going to be a winner.
I'm only friends with Paul for this weekend actually. When we're home we don't get along that very well, so I'll take it out on him on the water if I can.
The writing is on the wall for business people in the city centre, senseless graffiti that is pushing owners beyond frustration.
You get the building repaired, you get it repainted, you get it looking fresh, and then of course you turn up on the next morning and it's been sprayed again.
The vandals are back after a layoff of nearly 3 years since the earthquake. Here in a back alley off Hunter Street, block after block has been defaced by graffiti. Business people are calling for a truce, saying the cost of repairs is a fee they can't carry, and if businesses fold, jobs go with them.
On a cost basis, I suppose, to repaint and repair, then you're looking at probably $5,000 or $6,000 a building.
Police say the warmer months ahead will mean more young people on the streets and the possibility of more problems. If calls for support go unheeded, fines of up to $5,000 plus compensation may make would-be vandals have second thoughts about their senseless actions. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Based at the University of Newcastle for the past 2 decades, Professor Botcher has found his work both interesting and rewarding. While most of his time is spent lecturing in biological sciences, he can still be found working in the laboratory. His tenacity in the field of forensic research reached international acclaim when he disputed the evidence produced in the Lindy Chamberlain case, which resulted in the subsequent inquiry. Another important interest for the professor has been the Doug Rendell case. Rendell was given a life sentence in 1980 for the murder of his de facto wife. However, had it not been for Professor Botcher disputing the evidence submitted by the same biological scientists in the Chamberlain case, Rendell may still be behind bars. Now, new evidence may open the way for compensation, refused by the Attorney-General.
Yesterday, tabled in Parliament, there were the obliterated sections of the report into Rendell's inquiry, which show undoubtedly that there was wrong actions on behalf of the police.
Professor Botcher is now working in the relatively new field of genetic research known as DNA. Simply put, DNA is the chemical in our cells that controls the colour of our eyes and hair. Like a fingerprint, it's unique. Research has shown a remarkable difference between the DNA of Aborigines and Caucasian Australians, despite common ancestors. DNA profiles are now being used as evidence in court cases. As nothing is known about the DNA of Aborigines, Professor Botcher believes this needs to be addressed.
It is important that we know what Aboriginal DNA is like before we try to use this sort of evidence for legal purposes.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
It's a boating bonanza that's quickly becoming one of Port Stephens' best crowd pullers. More than 70 exhibitors will display their wares at Nelson Bay this weekend, double the number from the first show last year. Some 30,000 people are expected to visit the exhibition. This replica of the historic Lady Nelson sure to be one of the main attractions. But if you're not into the old style, there's always the new and powerful. Try squeezing this Volvo engine under the hood of a family car. And to prove that boating has kept up with the times, there's all types of electronic wizardry to take on board. Entry is free and the show will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 across the weekend. Matthew White, NBN News.
Newcastle's Dixon Park Beach hosted 10 clubs from the lower and mid-north coasts, Manly and also the local clubs, with the first 3 place getters going on to the final in December. A sweep to the south made for tough racing, and in the Tube Rescue, Avoca Beach kept up its impressive early start with a solid victory. In the board team's male race, a classic finish, with 4 paddlers on the one wave. In the race for the line, Manly's Scott Mortimer outsprinted his rivals to give his club vital points. In the women's equivalent, Swansea Belmont's Melissa Thurlow blitzed the field to win by a country mile and give her club a much-needed win.
We've had a couple of disqualifications this morning, so we really need all the points we can get now.
Redhead's Brian Tyndall was the quickest over the sand, with Gavin Portier of Swansea Belmont A team second and Nick Foran from Swansea B third. Overall, Swansea A team was first, with Avoca second and Manly third. The Mid-North Coast finished sixth, with the Lower North Coast seventh. Some of the country's best snooker players are chasing $5,000 in prize money this weekend in the Newcastle Open Tournament. 16 competitors are seeded and the preliminary rounds are being held at the Shortland and Stockton RSLs and also the BHP Rec Club. The finals are scheduled for the Stockton RSL tomorrow night.
This foreshore park in Belmont South is often used as a playground for tourists. But lately, according to resident Ivan Welsh, it's been a killing ground for birds. Mr Welsh found dead seagulls strewn along the shore and was concerned they'd been poisoned.
I thought, well, if it was poisoning, that's a fair lot of poison to be laying around the park, especially in that area where it's frequented by a lot of tourists and families with young kids. So you could get some sort of a real mishap there.
The birds were taken to Belmont vet Mark Simpson, who says tests suggest poison was involved in their deaths.
The post-mortems were highly suggestive of the birds having been poisoned. The birds didn't have anything in the initial part of their digestive tract, and the liver was showing signs of a reaction to a poison.
Mr Simpson says it's not the first time he's encountered apparent deliberate poisoning of birds on the foreshore.
We've had a couple of reports lately of particularly wild birds in the southern Belmont area associated with the lake having been poisoned.
Mark Simpson says if anyone is disgruntled with animals, they should contact the council or himself for advice rather than resort to killing. Small toys for big boys. But with these radio-controlled races ripping round the track at 80 kilometres an hour, that's a lot pacier than anything most of us had to play with in the sandpit as children. "60 competitors are testing their throttle fingers in the inaugural Australian On-Road Oval Championships for radio-controlled cars at Newcastle Velodrome this weekend." What's the attraction to grown men to race their cars around a track?
Well, we can stand here on the side of the track and do, well, we're doing over 80 kilometres an hour already. And if you have an accident, which there's been a couple so far, you don't get hurt. Only your ego, that's all.
This was about the only birdie spotted on the Sawtell course today. The shark turned up and promptly made a meal of the shot. There was a cuddly caddy, and the kid was all class. Though Alan Border would have been proud of this effort. There were 150 starters. Camp Quality is another $4,000 better off. These hacks with big hearts have raised a total of $9,000 in the last 3 years.
Our 7-year-olds are also underway up the northern end of the beach.
Business took a back seat last night as more than 200 people crammed into Yarunga's Bowling Club for the inaugural Business Awards. National television and radio personality Jimmy Hannon did the honours, recognising businesses in the Yarunga, Bellingen and Dorrigo areas. The awards are the brainchild of a group of local North Coast people who wanted to encourage business enterprise in the Shire, as well as offering training and job search assistance for the unemployed and disadvantaged. Amongst those honoured for the Business of the Year was Dorrigo Dorrigo's Lookout Motor Inn, Urunga's Joyce Bus Service and Bellingen's Yellow Shed, a craft works and garden centre that offers rainforest and native plants to the public. Dorrigo's National Parks and Wildlife Service was awarded the Special Judges Prize. This honour was given to a business nominated in other categories but didn't quite fit the bill. The National Parks and Wildlife Service was recognised for efforts to increase local employment and develop a workshop to manufacture park furnishings, signage and prefabricated buildings for statewide distribution.
It was like a Roman circus, a huge crowd laughing, oohing and ahhing as chap-clad gladiators came and went. There was time for a little monkey business, but smiles faded as one cowboy had his head stamped on. He was okay and walked woozily from the arena.
Endeavouring to get around one half of the hill and throw off the top a little bit. He's out wide and down to the centre line. He's right down. All the music set. The first that I should give you down there because this rate officially and officially replacing a great service to the holiday coast.
Where are you going? Just round there?
We've had the police out and we've had the helicopter, we've had two rubber duckies and jet skis and guys on surf skis as well trying to find the other person.
A police escort led the runners out into the clear morning air. It wasn't long before the field began to spread out as the leaders set the pace. Through the streets of Bulahdelah, past the Myall River Park and up the mountain trail they ran, with the late starter at their heels. City to Surf placegetter Steve Atkins showed his versatility by leading the Bush Bashers over the finish line in a time of 31 minutes and 33 seconds. 34 seconds later, Alan McCloskey finished the race, and the first woman home was Joanne Colger in a time of 44 minutes and 33 seconds.
There's 17 pieces of work in the exhibition, each one by an Australian living with HIV or AIDS. Many of the works document an individual's personal accounts of coming to terms with the virus, or as with Chris, pictured here, emphasise the living rather than the dying side of AIDS.
This project enables people living with HIV/AIDS to have a voice, to dispel some of those myths, to address the issues of isolation, stigmatisation and discrimination.
Miss Triffett says the exhibition is also attempting to dispel the myths associated with the virus and the use of words like sufferers and victims to describe those with AIDS. The exhibition started touring in 1990 and will be in Newcastle till December 6. Miss Triffett sees its role as much as educational as visually aesthetic.
Jeff Wright was re-elected unopposed as president for another 12 months, and he will be joined on the board by sitting members Kevin Smith and David Turrell, Paul Slattery and Col Arnott, Alan Williams and also Phil Anthony. Long-serving director Dave Brown didn't stand this year, and in his place will be Bill Campbell. And taking a special interest in proceedings, Michael Hill and Mike Armstrong from the Knights. 3 directors from the NRL board will serve on the Knights board: Kevin Smith, David Turrell and Alan Williams.
With a tradition of more than a century, the Metal Workers Union has undergone a series of structural changes and amalgamations in the past 20 years. And as of January 1st next year, there'll be another, with the coming together of the Metal and Engineering Workers Union and the Vehicle Builders Employees Federation. Mary McGill from the Metal Workers Union says for her 12,000 Hunter members and another 700 in the Vehicle Builders group, the amalgamation is good news.
Greater flexibility for the membership, better facilities. You will also find that the membership right up to the Queensland border that hasn't been unionised before due to just one official working in this area for the VBF, we'll be hopefully able to go out and start recruitment in that area.
Ms McGill says with more amalgamations planned, the super union could have as many as 400,000 members by the end of next year. Strength in numbers, she says, is necessary to fight any erosion of conditions by employers or a change in federal government.
I think the Kennett government have only touched the iceberg of what the use and Howard will do if we have a change of government.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
There goes about another 30 litres down the drain. That's how much the average top-loading washing machine uses per load. It seemed a real waste to Barnsley man David Trelfo, who decided to do something about it. Rather than draining the relatively clean water used in the rinse cycle, Dave has designed a pump-out system that empties water from the washing machine into a storage tank, equipped with an overflow pipe and small submersible pump capable of transferring the water to a toilet cistern. From there, the water can be reused to flush the toilet, each flush averaging about 11 litres. The design has won the Hunter Water Corporation's Environmental Enterprise Search Award, and it's hoped it will be installed in Newcastle's soon-to-be-completed environment-friendly display home. School students also submitted their ideas on recycling and reducing to the competition, a promising sign according to Dave Trelfo, better known as an award-winning NBN News cameraman.
I think it's great to see these high school students here because they're the future. And it's interesting because when I went through the high school system, I mean, a recycling concept was something rather, in the distance. So it's great to see the young people coming through because they're the ones that are going to have to be dealing in a very real way with what we leave them.
Meet Duncan Bowditch, the 16-year-old whiz kid from the Newcastle suburb of Katara South. Duncan has just returned from the 16 and under National Inline, commonly called Rollerblade, Speed Skating Championships, where he blitzed the field, and it's easy to see why. Duncan has been recorded doing speeds of up to 80 kilometres an hour downhill.
I like the speed a lot because it's the feeling of going fast.
Amazingly, he's only been on the blades for 12 months, but he did have a head start.
Well, I used to skate since I was 4 on roller skates, and then I made the switch over about a year ago.
Is there much difference between skating and rollerblades?
They're in a line and they give you better traction, and it's a lot easier to do things on rollerblades than it is on skates.
Speed's not Duncan's only forte. He can do just about anything on these here blades when it comes to acrobatics. Duncan is part of a local stunt team which travels the area, demonstrating inline skating and its benefits.
Keeps you fit, very fit, works up the muscles in the calves and that, and it just keeps you very fit.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News. Laugh is about 4 total strangers who suddenly find themselves as travelling companions. They're plunged into a surreal world of the ominous voice, where they must get along with each other. This means doing things they don't necessarily want to. When negativity and frustration are expressed, the voice takes over, leading the travellers into some dark and dangerous situations, like being parted by a black hole. The 4 soon learn if they unite, are positive and laugh, they can overcome all the obstacles presented to them. Thus the theme, no matter what happens, you gotta laugh. The production will run till December 13th. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
For weeks, motorists along the F3 have been intrigued by the full-scale development underway on either side of the freeway near Wyong. Now all has been revealed. The site will have Australia's largest service stations. Caltex has injected $30 million into the project, building twin stations, more than twice the size of normal petrol outlets. But there's more than fuel at these stations. The identical sites will provide restaurants, shops, tourist information, showering facilities and emergency breakdown areas. The development has also given a boost to the local economy. Operating 24 hours a day, the stations will employ more than 200 full and part-time workers. It's hoped the stations will be completed by next Easter. Residents of Crebit Street, Mayfield were sent scurrying out of their homes at about 2:30 after hearing a loud explosion. They were met with a tragic scene, Gary Johnson capturing the terror on home video.
We heard a bang, I was just out in the backyard and I looked up and we seen the black smoke rising. We ran out the front, had a look, and there was people up there trying to grab the bloke off the road. I come back inside and got the video, went up, had a look, and the power line fell down as we were getting up there.
The two Shortland electricity workers, both in their 30s, had been working on the 11,000-volt power lines when disaster struck, their cherry picker becoming tangled in the wires. One of the men was killed, the other taken to the John Hunter Hospital, suffering severe burns and fractures. Another man was also injured, believed to have been burnt while dragging the two men away from the scene. With power lines down, police cordoned off the area. Emergency crews working for an hour to clear the danger. Police say a coronial inquiry will be held. They're also seeking a witness who may have seen the accident happen.
We believe a witness did stop just near the scene as the incident occurred, and we are appealing for her or any other witnesses who saw this incident to come forward and contact Mayfield Police.
Matthew White, NBN News.
Dean Lawrence introduced the new generation of Anglican church leaders in the diocese, 11 women who will become priests after nearly 10 years of struggle.
I was unbelieving at first, it's been so long that we've waited, but very excited, very joyful.
Last weekend, the General Synod of the Anglican Church in Sydney voted 152 to 66, giving individual dioceses the right to ordain women. 5 of the 25 groups, including Armidale and Sydney, have decided against the move. In Newcastle, legislation is expected to be passed on December 11th, with the ordination in Christchurch Cathedral on December 21st.
The whole feel of the diocese is that this is the right thing for us to do, and we move forward and do it.
The former Bishop of Newcastle, Bishop Holland, who had been outspoken on the need for women priests, will not attend the service. The Right Reverend Geoffrey Parker will perform the ordination of the 11 women and 3 men. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Local sports people are set to benefit with the Northern Inland branch of the Academy now operational. The Academy's function is not to construct sporting complexes, but to recognise sporting talent that sometimes goes astray in country areas.
I think it's important not just for the region to have that facility, that catchment of young people, but also for the whole of the Australian sporting ethos and, I suppose, results in the world context, because country areas do have a lot of sporting talent, but in the past have had difficulties getting access to the levels of coaching and other areas that help develop them, competition, etc., that they will have now through the Academy system.
In launching the Academy, Mr Shipp commented that with Armidale and Jumeric Council support, as well as the UNE and community as a whole, the Northern Inland Centre has the capacity to produce the best sports people in the state.
This Academy would be put on the best basis of the commencement of any academy that I know of in the 6 that are geographically located throughout the state.
5 sports have already been catered for, including cycling in Inverell, rugby league and netball based in Armidale, and hockey and softball in Tamworth. The Academy will now concentrate on recruiting other sports that missed out in the first round of opportunities.